basic forensic interview protocol training is the first step in conducting forensic interviews. Most protocol trainings are based on a body of research spanning over 4 decades, and many include information on question types, how and when to utilize questions depending on the information sought, child development, how to establish rapport, what makes an effective episodic memory training, transitioning from the pre-substantive phase of the interview to the substantive phase, how to manage disclosures, and how to provide that appropriate social support. Interviewers are taught to encourage the use of invitations such as "say some more about," because these questions are open-ended, they're non-specific, and they elicit more information than any other question type. And the information gained is considered more reliable. In addition, interviewers are trained to gather details regarding specific episodes, and the need for dates or times that's often determined by jurisdictional requirements. An example would be if there are different charging statutes dependent on the age of the child at the time of the abuse, or statutes requiring an on or about date to give an alleged offender adequate notice. The definition of time, according to Webster's dictionary, is one of a series of reoccurring instances or repeated actions, but also a moment, an hour, a day, or a year as indicated by a clock or a calendar. Unfortunately, when interviewers ask, "Tell me about a time," children hear the word time, and they may interpret the question as a request for when the event occurred, while interviewers are instead wanting to know more about what occurred during a singular incident. This misunderstanding, when a child misconstrues the interviewer's reference to time as asking for a conventional temporal time, is referred to in the research as a pseudo-temporal problem. 2 recent articles examined children's misinterpretation of invitations asking about the time and found that children either responded to "tell me about the time" with conventional temporal information, or they expressed uncertainty. "I don't know the time." They may have requested clarification regarding the interviewer's intent, "what do you mean?" or simply responded with an "I don't know." Children who responded with "I don't remember" may lead the interviewer to believe the child has forgotten the event rather than the child does not know when that event occurred. When children express their misunderstanding, unfortunately, in 1/3 of the cases, interviewers fail to clarify the ambiguity. They may assume that the child's limited response is due to motivational or memory difficulties, leading them to narrow or ask more focused questions. It is also important to keep in mind that more distant events, often due to delayed disclosure, ongoing maltreatment, or a long delay to trial, are more likely to elicit simple "I don't know" responses, which increases the difficulty of identifying pseudo-temporal responses. There was no evidence for a decrease in these problems as children aged. In fact, the rate of "I don't know" responses increased, and this could be attributed to children as they grow older, having a better understanding or familiarity with temporal concepts. So these children may feel the need to provide temporal information when they hear "tell me about a time." Older children may also guess a date or a season, and it often could be incorrect. So it's important to remember that learning about conventional time is very different from making judgments about the time events occurred. If a child does provide a narrow or a specific time frame, the interviewer should follow with a request for further information, such as, "Talk to me about remembering it was in the summer of 6th grade." Interviewers can reduce uncertainty and unresponsiveness to invitations when gathering information regarding specific events by instead using the phrase, what happened one time. The need for an action-based narrative is explicit when interviewers ask, what happened? So instead of asking, tell me about the time in the shed, ask, what happened the time in the shed? A frequent question posed when children allege ongoing maltreatment is, tell me about a time you remember, or tell me about the first or last time, or tell me about a time that was different. And what we want you to do is to change the about a time to what happened, and that may elicit more specific information. During transition from the pre-substantive phase of the interview to the substantive phase, listen for cues indicating multiple events, such as, he's always touching me, or every time my moms go on a date night, the babysitter plays the touching game. Hearing these types of cues indicates ongoing maltreatment. There is some evidence that eliciting a script account of the maltreatment, what happens when the babysitter plays the touching game, may serve as a cueing mechanism to children for specific events that can later be explored. Research clearly indicates that changing the wording of the question, tell me about a time, to what happened at one time, or what happened the time in the shed, if the child has provided episodic cues, can help avoid miscommunication and assist the child in providing an action-based narrative of an event.